All right, so in this video, I'm gonna be covering everything you need to know for cold email in 2024. Let's get right into it. No BS intro. So first thing I'm going to be covering is the infrastructure. So we're using Smartly.ai, or we're testing a few private sequencing tools for email sequencing. And what I mean by email sequences, this is just a tool that like sends the cold emails. This is where we're going to store all the email accounts, set up the cold email campaigns, and yeah, send at scale. Also manage the inbox, all that stuff. The reason why I like Smartly is because they have all these APIs that we can use. The support team's really great, and it's really easy to use at scale with all of our clients. It gives us a really good infrastructure to overview. It's super easy to use. All that stuff. We can automate a lot of things like the notifications when campaigns come through, or like when a CSM creates a campaign, when we create a campaign, whatever. That can get sent to the client. So a lot of API features. In terms of deliverability, deliverability's been good. They have a decent warrant pool. They've kind of just overall been the most reliable sending provider for or email sequencing tool that we've used for the past couple of years. So yeah, highly recommend Smart Lead. Great tool, good pricing, all that stuff. And in terms of private sequencing tools, we're testing out a few. I'm not going to name any in this video because the tools want us to keep their name low key. But if you're someone who's like really sending a lot of outbound and looking to get the most out of their deliverability, I would recommend looking into some private sequencing tools potentially. That could be something that's high leverage. Uh, Other infrastructure in terms of the email accounts, we're using Google Outlook, and when we use Google and Outlook accounts, we typically are using resellers. So like premium inboxes, it's a Google or a G Suite reseller. Outlook, we have our own guy that goes to the Outlook resold accounts, but I'm sure if you just look up Outlook resellers, like you can find some pretty easily. And then in terms of private infrastructure, we're using Superwave, testing out MailReef, testing out Scaled Mail, testing out a few, but the sort of strategy we're going with in terms of these email providers, and this is something that I actually got from a member of our community at the Outbound Code. If you want to check it out, it's in the link in the description. But basically, the sort of setup we're going with when we onboard a new client is, and we're scaling campaigns for them, is we've seen that starting off with Google inboxes. So we're starting off with resold Google inboxes from premium inboxes to set those up first, set up like 50 accounts, launch the first campaigns with those, and then once we see results for those campaigns, then when we're looking to scale to like 5,000, 10,000 emails per day, then we use private infrastructure to scale at volume because if you're using just G Suite accounts, it's a lot harder to scale versus using private infrastructure where you can send you can set up hundreds of accounts super easily and just ram volume. But yeah, the way we sort of determine the number of inboxes we choose according to each client is we first assess the TAM. So what the TAM is pretty much like the whole market that we can address um, in terms of verified contacts that we can actually email. So, and how we do this is, so let's say your total TAM that we find in Apollo is like 100,000 people, right? And in reality, you're going to probably have like 70,000 real verified contacts that we can actually outreach to. So let's say we have 70,000 people. We typically don't want to reach out to the same sort of segment like once every 3 months or so. So what we do is we take that number divided by three and determine the monthly sending volume um, across the entire TAM. So whatever 70,000 is divided by three, like I don't know, 27,000, something like that. Um, Whatever that number is, we then multiply it by two or three, depending on how many emails we're sending per sequence. And then, so we say if we have 70,000 contacts in the full TAM, we can reach out to that full TAM within 3 months. Then that means we can send about 60,000 emails per month, sending two emails to each contact within that TAM, if that makes sense. So that's sort of how we go about determining the inboxes. And then, from there, we then take that number, find the daily sending volume, then divide it by 20 because we send 20 emails per inbox if we're using Google or Outlook. Private infrastructure is always different. But yeah, and then from there we can determine like how many inboxes we need to be able to send 60,000 emails per month, which is probably going to be something like 200 inboxes around there. But again, you can determine that for yourself. And if you end up working with us, we help you determine that. But yeah, so and then in terms of the email warm up, we still just do 2 weeks. Some people don't do any email warm up, or they do 1 week or like a few days. Warm up's kind of like a whole gray area topic at the moment, but we've just seen like just do 2 weeks. It's honestly the most reliable. I can't personally recommend any other practice. So that's the infrastructure side of things. In terms of data collection, so how we go at this first. So what I mean by data collection is this is like the data we need before actually starting to build the campaigns, and this is something that we run all of our clients through. But this is something you can do for yourself or whatever offer you're running. So first, really, if you want to get like build some very strong campaigns, you need to do this because this is you need the market research. You need to be able to really get a good grasp of like what you're doing here with these campaigns. So first, when it comes to the list building, as I just mentioned in the last one, you want to assess the TAM. So it's going to be um, depending on the whatever your ICP data is. So let's say you target e-commerce brands, but you specifically only target brands that are above 100K per month and have like Klaviyo installed as technology. You want to filter your list by that, and then from there you can assess like how many people are in that TAM, and how many verified contacts you could probably source from that TAM across all the different databases and verifiers you use. You assess that, and then you can score the TAM using Clay. Clay has scoring features. Like if you have some really specific criteria, so let's say, for example, you have a client who they target rooftop venues that play music, and there's a lot of very specific criteria that goes into that. So it's like depending on location, if it's like a bar, all that stuff. And we can use Clay and like their AI features to be able to analyze their website, and then from there determine like, okay, is it a bar? If it is, then it gives it like a certain amount of points. Um, if it's on a roof, if it's a rooftop bar, like that gives it a certain amount of points. If it's like known to have DJs, etc., stuff, things like that. Um, Clay is able to score each lead, and the higher the score of the lead, that means the more points it had towards having each of the ICP criteria that you wanted. The higher quality that lead will be. And if you're targeting a niche that you need very very specific ICP criteria for, then using something like Clay to score those leads is going to be really important. Yeah. So you want to make sure you collect the ICP criteria that you're going for. It's for yourself. It's for your clients, and then use Clay to score that if that is relevant. And then once you have all this in place, you can start building out your outbound playbook for your offer and the market you're targeting. So, and I'm going to dive into how you can do this, and this is going to be through market research, which this is absolutely crucial. And I don't think many people don't really do this, honestly. From what I've seen talking to other people who run lead gen agencies or just do cold email in general, most people don't actually do market research. They just kind of go off their basic knowledge of what they know and what they've tested so far and what they've seen with their clients, which is okay. Because I mean, obviously, the best market research is going to be your own real experience in the market, right? But there still might be some sort of aspects that you're missing that can really resonate with the market further, and you can get a lot more specific with that. And then the way we're going to do that is through using ChatGPT, right? And this is super simple to do. So we can go in ChatGPT. We can basically ask it, where are some unique angles with the offer that you're currently running, and like how they specifically can resonate with the specific market you're going after. So you can basically ask ChatGPT, be like, hey, I do email marketing for, let's say, like food brands. Like, what's the specific advantage that email marketing has for these food e-commerce brands? And then from there, you can extrapolate. It'll give you a few answers, and then from that information, you can sort of determine like what's a unique angle I can find in here that for my specific market that I'm targeting, my offer has this sort of advantage over the same people doing what you're doing, right? So you want to be more specific to that specific industry with your offer by basically asking ChatGPT like, how can I make my offer more relevant to this market that I'm going after? And then you could also use ChatGPT to pretty much find new market segments. So like you can tap into new industries. So let's say you do influencer marketing. You can ask ChatGPT like, what are all the industries that are relevant that can potentially use influencer marketing? Like, who would these benefit? And we did this for another client who is influencer marketing client. And we tapped in a ton of different industries that like our client didn't even know was really feasible. So like healthcare, uh, insurance, credit, all this stuff. Like all these industries can use influencer marketing, and we were able to find this through using ChatGPT for market research, right? So yeah, that's another one. And obviously tapping into these segments that are a little more untapped that most people don't know about can obviously yield in really great results. And then you can also ask ChatGPT to come up with some sort of like front offer. So like you can ask ChatGPT to sort of take your current offer and spin it up in a way that you can use directly over cold email. So for example, we can go back to influencer marketing. We know that with TikTok, TikTok has an educational content favored algorithm. And with healthcare, it requires a lot of like it's very educational based marketing because people are very skeptical. So we were able to obviously I don't know anything about healthcare. Um, but the way I was able to find this information was through doing market research using AI to help us out with finding all this stuff, right? And from there, we're able to sort of have a more unique selling proposition, right? Because you'd be like, hey, you know what? TikTok has an algorithm that would favor your type of marketing, and we have a vehicle that is like the best vehicle for marketing on TikTok, which is influencer marketing, like organic influencer marketing. Um, is this interesting? And we can mention like some past results we got. So like that's a lot more unique and interesting versus just saying like, hey, we do influencer marketing for companies, right? So like, hey, we can leverage TikTok's educational favorite algorithm to scale your customer engagement on TikTok, specifically for your healthcare brand, right? So things like that, right? And then from there, with this information, you can create your campaign thesis and really start diving into the actual script writing and list building, which I'll dive into right here. So yeah, I'm basically covering like the process that we run through when it comes to creating the campaigns. So first, we want to craft the sort of messaging around the campaign thesis that we just created using this market research we just covered right now. And we want to really the main thing that we want to test is going to be like value propositions, right? So it's not necessarily like different script frameworks. It's going to be the really the angles and the propositions that we lead with that's going to have the highest impact testing versus like testing a few different words or like as I said the script frameworks like that stuff doesn't matter that much unless if you're testing between like a one line sentence email or a full paragraph or like full multiple paragraph email like that will have a difference but you get what I'm saying. So yeah, in terms of different value propositions, so we test different front end offers. So this can be an offer that's not your main offer, but it's something that is just to get your foot in the door, and it's also paid as well. So let's say you do a cold email for like a one time campaign setup, you charge like $1,000, and that's like a front end offer. And that's just the way you get your foot in the door, and then from there you can upsell them into your done for you offer, which is like really we're gonna make the profit, right? So that's a front end offer they can test. You can spend that for however you want for whatever your offers you're running. Lead magnets, so that can be like some sort of case studies or like guides, things like that. I'm not really the biggest fan of lead magnets as much anymore with cold email because a lot of people just take them and then just leave and don't really ever come back to you. Free work, that's going to be another one that is just always going to work super well, like just offering a part of your service for free. So let's say you do ad creatives for e-commerce brands, then offering like a free ad creative to whatever brand you're reaching out to is obviously powerful. And then unique insights. So that's like sort of the one I just mentioned before this, where like we're talking about how our offer is specifically strong for the market that we're going after. It's like in the previous example where I mentioned the um, influencer marketing client, how TikTok is specifically favorable to educational based content, and how healthcare is requires a lot of educational based marketing. So that's the sort of unique insight that we can use AI to find and create personalization around. So those are just a few different angles, and like those are some of the most powerful ones that really make a big difference when testing. Um, and then in terms of like different script frameworks, so this is not like the actual like how the script reads. This is the angles that we're talking about here. So if we're determining if we're going to use case studies or pain points, shorter or longer scripts, as I mentioned before, and then with or without personalization, which this could make a difference because you'll be surprised sometimes emails without personalization outperform the ones with personalization. Or let's say you cook up a really good personalization angle, then that could really add a lot to your email. So you just gotta test all this stuff, but just don't go all your way in like testing different words or like just really the main things is going to be the angles and like the sort of offers and you know value propositions. That's the word that you're going to be running with. That's going to be the main thing. And then of course you want to make sure you're always adding spin tags to all these scripts. The rule of thumb when it comes to spin tags is 1 point of spin tags every 3 to 5 words. It's honestly probably have one point of spin tags every 1 to 3 words. Really, spin tags has become a lot more crucial than ever as deliverability has become a lot more difficult than ever. I'm sure you've all seen that. And then, yeah, we want to build a list around the ICP criteria. So with the TAM criteria that you gathered earlier from the market research and then just assessing your sort of ICP, all that stuff. First, we're going to start with creating the account list. So what I mean by this is a list of all the companies that you want to target, not the people within the companies, just the companies. Then import that into something like Apollo or ZoomInfo to find the decision makers. And then, of course, whatever decision makers you target, that's going to be dependent on who you want to be speaking with. So if you have something that's an offer around finance, you probably want to be speaking to a decision maker within the finance sector. But if you're doing something just like around marketing, then you can typically target, anyone that's C-suite, anyone that's like in marketing, so like directors of marketing, head of marketing, or you can even target people in sales if you're talking with brands and things like that. So that decision makers are completely dependent on, who it is you really want to be speaking with on these calls. And then, of course, I mean, you probably know this already, but you probably know who you want to be speaking with on these calls already. But you can go to ChatGPT and, of course, ask it, like, who's the best person to be speaking with at these companies to move the sales cycle along as fast as possible, which is obviously going to be, like, the main C-suite guys. But, you can get a list of those people. So you can expand your decision maker TAM on that. And then, yeah, from there, we can scrape the email addresses using something like you know, Export Apollo or Prospeo, any of these Lead Magic, ICPs. There's a billion email enrichment tools out there that you can use to find all this data. And the main place that we're going to do all this stuff is going to be within Clay. So we're going to import this list to Clay. So typically the workflow right here is we do this all in Apollo. We'll scrape Apollo with Export Apollo, get the email addresses, the base contact info, import that into Clay, and then this is where we're gonna use the other tools like Prospeo, ICPs, all that stuff to enrich the data through in a waterfall enrichment flow, and then also verify within Clay using Million Verifier or debounce, and then double verifying for the catch-alls using Enrichly, which I love Enrichly. That's a great tool. It's like Enrich. It's the way you spell it's enrichley.com. I highly recommend you guys check them out. We don't have a partnership with them. I just love their tool so much. The catch all verification rate is like 80%. It's crazy. And that'll just expand your TAM so much, right? Oh wait, I have it right here. I didn't even see that. But anyways, and then from there, you can use AI to personalize, lead score, find intent data. You can do whatever you want with AI within Clay. It's the sort of opportunities are pretty endless, and with whatever personalization you want to do. You can hook up custom scrapers like Abify to Clay to scrape website data, prompt the scraper in Clay, and do some pretty crazy stuff with that. So, the options really endless when it comes to personalization, all that stuff. And from there, this is as I said before, this is kind of just like a process. We send the campaign for review. If this is for a client, of course, yourself just review yourself and then launch that campaign. And then in terms of inbox management, so this is going to be the most optimized sort of inbox management that you can sort of run in terms of like a setup. I'll probably make a full video again. I made a video in the past covering inbox management, but it might be outdated at this point. But really, you want to build strong systems around this. You want this to be completely hands off. You should not. If you're a founder and you are inbox management, you are wasting so much time. It's unbelievable. Like you need to just go to onlinejobs.ph, hire an inbox manager for like $500 per month, and just get that settled. But with our setup as a lead gen agency, because it's our full thing, we want to have 24/7 inbox managers. And so the way we can do this is by hiring 3 inbox managers and having one for each time zone. Thing is, we're implementing AI and having our inbox manager use AI to sort of respond to a lot of these leads and just kind of be like a manager of the AI, which is the inbox manager. So we have a manager of the inbox. If that makes sense. But um, we're trying to move to a point where we just have AI manage the entire thing because it's a pretty low leverage task managing the inbox. But at the moment, we still have humans in the process, and with the humans, we're still getting sub 5 minute response times. And the way we do that is through it's pretty simple. We just use the Smart Lead Master Inbox, set up API webhooks to what is it Slack, and then have a channel for all the replies that come through that are positive replies, because we use AI to score each reply that comes through, and it has like a 99% correction rate, or the 99% scoring rate in terms of it being correct. Um, for the positive replies, it gets sent to a single channel. Then the inbox manager can pretty much go to that channel. It leads a link to the real reply. They go to the reply. They have a reply template in place. Pretty much just click a few buttons and send the reply. And all that's done within 5 minutes, right? Because it's all real time data, and it's real time how these automations are being set up or set off. And yeah, and then we just have the response templates in place. And then from there, once a lead is scored as interested, then they also get put into automated subsequence for follow up if they haven't booked a meeting yet, within the next 2 days, right? And then yeah, in terms of lead conversion systems, obviously we have the inbox manager trained on scheduling according to the time zone. But the thing is, again, we have AI. We're using AI tools. I'm not going to mention the tool in this video, but it's basically we give access to our Calendly, and from there they can actually analyze the Calendly and choose like two most the two nearest available times for a call. And then we have the Calendly workflows on that, where we send the follow up. Once they book a meeting, they get a call confirmation with sales assets. So that could be like a video and case studies to sort of keep them warm for the call that's coming up. And then reminder sequences in place, every 24 hours, 2 hours, and 20 minutes before the call, so they can show up. And then finally, so this is going to be the optimization. And this is how we're going to sort of continue to improve the system over time. And this is obviously very important because really cold email is a game of optimization, because you can have 90% of the process right. You can have deliverability in place, scripts in place, all like lists in place, all this stuff. But you don't have an inbox manager in place, then if one part of the system is missing, then the entire system isn't going to work. So everything has to be fully optimized, and we need to continue to optimize over time, because really we need to be operating at like 99% for cold email to really work, especially nowadays since it's so difficult. So what we're doing is we're going to be doing bi-weekly email delivery tests. So we're using tools like EmailGuard to score deliverability, see what's going on. A big thing that we've seen recently is that sending to Outlook accounts has severely dropped off in terms of deliverability. So, I mean, we wouldn't have had that data if we hadn't tested deliverability from us sending to Outlook accounts versus us sending to G Suite accounts. So, yeah, scoring the deliverability on a bi-weekly basis, maybe even a weekly basis at this point, honestly, is going to be needed, because deliverability is changing pretty much almost every week at this point, right? And then, depending on the accounts that we see are burnt from the deliverability test that we take, we can go ahead and create new inboxes according to that data if it is needed. So yeah, we also want to test each email account depending on like if they're landing spam and all that stuff, which can be done with EmailGuard. EmailGuard's a great tool. And then weekly system audits. So we're going to be assessing. Of course, I mean we're going to be assessing the campaigns. I don't know, this thing's bugging. We're going to be assessing the campaigns and scripts. We're going to look at the stats of each of the scripts. A/B test. I mean, it's pretty basic information, right? Whichever ones are outperforming, we'll keep those ones. Whichever are underperforming, cut those out. On the scripts that are performing the best, we're going to double down on them and then try to create some different variations around them if needed. But really, we just want to ram volume to the ones that are performing really well. If we're like booking a couple meetings a day from a certain script, then really instead of trying to like optimize that script, we're gonna figure out how can we push more volume and maximize our TAM to just like continue to keep this momentum, right? Because we found something that's working. It's a matter of just putting the systems in place to scale that, right? And then yeah, determine if like the market segment is something that is like good with your offer because you have an off like let's say we can go back to influence marketing again, or let's just say cold email. Let's say we reach out to marketing companies and that works really well, but we reach out if we start reaching out to tech companies with the same offer and that doesn't end up working, then we know that like working with tech is not going to be ideal, or targeting tech is not going to be ideal, even if like our offer is working well for another industry. So you can sort of start segmenting on industries as well and see what really works well for you and just double down on those, right? Because that's really what the game is. It's like find something that works, double down on it, and continue to optimize on top of that. And then we want to assess inbox management as well. So we're going to determine like what's the sentiment looking like? Like are people asking a ton of questions? Is everyone just saying no? People are interested. Are they actually booking meetings? Or is when they're responding, are they always converting into meetings? So it's always interesting things to assess and like adjust the copy according to that, right? Because let's say you have a campaign where you're getting a ton of positive replies, but like no one's booking meetings. Then from there, you want to see like, okay, what can I do? How can I adjust the copy or adjust the inbox management to where instead of just getting positive replies, we're actually converting meetings, right? Like, do I need to change the copy? Is it too soft of a CTA? Do I need to change the reply? You can analyze all that stuff and then adjust it, see if anything changes, and then continue to optimize from there. And then, of course, yeah, you can adjust the campaign angle. So let's say like, because sometimes when it comes to offering free work, you kind of a decent amount of tire kickers, right? You'll get a lot of meetings, but you'll have a decent amount of tire kickers. So you want to always adjust, like see if like the sentiment is, it's like they're responding positive, but it's like also like a negative light. It was like, yeah, sure, if this is 100% free, no, no, nothing ever, then they're probably gonna be a pain to work with, right? So you want to sort of look at that, and be like, okay, is it worth, like, should I cut this offer back a bit, or if it's working really well and people have a good sentiment to it as well, then you can continue pushing with it. But it's always good to like sort of see like how are people actually responding to our messages, right? And then you want to also assess the lead qualification show rate. So this is something that's super important. I mean, for everyone, but specifically if you're on like a cold email agency, right? Because I mean, a lot of us work on like a paper meeting basis, but it's also just good in general if you're working on retainers or whatever to know if like, okay, are the leads that we're getting, are they actually qualified and are they actually showing up to the meetings, right? And then from there, we can adjust the targeting and then the pre-call system accordingly. We got routine weekly reviews, so we always want to be reviewing everything on a weekly basis. That should be good enough. And then review statistics for the week. So, when you gather insights on the current results, like see, okay, is this something, are we hitting numbers that we expected? Are we overperforming? Are we underperforming? And then like create a game plan around how we can continue to scale the results if we're overperforming, or how we can improve it if we're just kind of getting average results or like below average results. Like what address the bottlenecks, like is it email accounts? Is it lead qualification? Is it the scripts? Just look at all that stuff and then sort of adapt and optimize on that. And of course, just optimize on whatever data you got and then scale. And that's the name of the game when it comes to cold email. And that's pretty much everything you know to get started with cold email, or just for cold email in general in 2024. Really, this is pretty much a full process covered here. But yeah, if you found this helpful, if you found this interesting, let me know in the comments below. Of course, I have my community that you can join. A lot of this information that I shared in this video was information I shared with my community, and also some information I gathered from my community in our group calls. We have a lot of very high level outbound guys in there, so you can check that below. It's outboundco.com. And then if you'd be interested in working with us at RevGrowth, full done for you outbound service, you can check us out at revgrowth.ai and book a call with me. Personally, I will hop on the call with you and audit your system, see what you got going on. But yeah, I hope you found this video useful. Cheers.